Hello and welcome to the Art Class Curator podcast. I am Cindy Ingram, your host and the founder of Art Class Curator and the Curated Connections Library. We're here to talk about teaching art with purpose and inspiration, from the daily delights of creativity to the messy mishaps that come with being a teacher. Whether you're driving home from school or cleaning up your classroom for the 15th time today, take a second, take a deep breath, relax those shoulders, and let's get started. Hello, everybody. This is Cindy Ingram from Art Class Curator, and I am so excited to welcome you back to Beyond the Surface. We are on day 4, so we're almost done with our free course this week. If you have not yet signed up for this free course, visit artclasscurator.com/surface to sign yourself up to get the daily emails. And I have to say, I have been so excited and encouraged with all of the discussions happening in the Art Class Curator Collective Facebook group. There has been so much good feedback. We're trying to keep up with all of it, and so much powerful discussion happening around this topic. So today we're talking about how to choose the right art for your students, artworks they'll relate to. And we get questions like one was in the Facebook group yesterday. Someone was asking if the VTS questions get boring after a while to the students, or do they notice that those same questions are being asked? We were also asked questions about, what if the kids aren't interested? What if they don't say anything? And honestly, those questions can be very easily addressed with just a really interesting work of art. If the artwork is captivating and complex and interesting, the students aren't going to care that you're saying the same types of questions. One, they're not going to notice that, but they're really not going to care because they're interested in the work of art. Your students who are more reluctant, if you put a really interesting work of art in front of them, then they're going to be drawn in. They have to be drawn in because they just can't help but be drawn in. So choosing a really interesting work of art will prevent a lot of issues in your classroom. It will make it more fun. It will make it more interesting, and it will make your engagement, 10 times better. So we use a method called the 4 C's. And if you've been following me for a while, we added the 4th C last year because I'll talk about that a little bit later, but that last C is really important. And before we dive into the 4 C's, I want to encourage you to take some pressure off of yourself. There is no right here. There is no perfect work of art to show your classroom. There's a lot of really good ones, and there's ones that maybe are not as conducive to an art discussion, but you're really not going to get it wrong. And I think you'll find that if it's something that you're interested in, your students also will be interested in it. Because if you think about it, I tried to figure out how much art there was in the world. And I Googled that, trying to get some sort of number. And of course, I did not get a number. But I did find someone in some online forum, someone asked how many paintings there were in the world. And someone answered, there are many more tonight than there were last night. And I thought that almost gave me chills. I was like, that's really fascinating to think about because, not only is there hundreds of thousands of millions of artworks out there in the world from, the last 50,000 years, there's more today than there was yesterday, and there will be more tomorrow than there was today. And that is just very, very exciting. I just looked at, some stats for some museums, and just in 20 museums alone that they put on this spreadsheet, I don't know who made this spreadsheet, but it says quartz, so maybe that's something. I don't know who made this. But anyway, that just in 20 museums listed on here, there are 3.1 million artworks in their collection, with the most on this spreadsheet. And that doesn't even have the Louvre on it. The most on this spreadsheet was the Hermitage in St. Petersburg, Russia, with 651,000 works of art. And the Rijksmuseum at 532-ish, and the Museum of Fine Arts Boston at 500. This doesn't even have the Met Museum on it. So, just staggering amounts of art in this world. And I always say that's job security for me. Well, we're never going to run out of art. But that means that there's probably a lot of duds out there, and there's a lot of really fascinating work to be found out there. And we've kind of made it our job at Art Class Curator to help you find those works of art, pick out the really interesting ones, the ones that move us, the ones that intrigue us, and help you bring those to your students, because, it's a lot of work sifting through artwork after artwork after artwork. And especially when you're putting pressure on yourself to find the most perfect one. So how do you find a really good work of art? And that is where we use our 4 C's. So our first C is captivating. So a captivating artwork immediately draws out an emotional response. It makes you gasp, or it makes you go, or makes you really curious, or it makes you just kind of go, oh, like, wow, interesting. And then makes you want to dive in. It makes you want to get closer. So when you're at a museum, you're looking around the room, and I always just kind of scan the museum room, and I look for the one that just draws my attention first. And that's the one I go look at. I don't sort of methodically pressure myself into loving and experiencing every single work of art in a museum. I go to the one that is the most interesting to me, spend time there, and then look at the rest of the ones in the room if I feel like it. Research has said that curiosity leads to more engagement in school. It also leads to more knowledge and retention of that knowledge. And it leads to seeking out other knowledge too. So when we captivate, what's the word I'm thinking of? Not captivate. Capitalize. That's the word. When we capitalize on our students' curiosity towards the subject matter, we are going to have better results in the classroom. And so captivating allows us to capitalize on that curiosity. Now, the next C in our 4 C's is communicative. And communicative means that the artwork is telling a story, or it's attempting to send a message. Basically, the communicative artwork has a meaning to it. And it doesn't have to be a single meaning. It's actually, we'll get to one of the other C's in a minute, that it's better to have multiple meanings. But, you're going to have better results if you look at, so I'm thinking of, I give the example in the email today for 2 paintings by Franz Marc. One is Some Horses, and one is Fate of the Animals. And they're very different. One of them has a lot more story to it. One of them has a lot more symbolism to it, a little more energy and action in it, and, more is going on. You're going to have more fun discussion and more engaging discussion on Fate of the Animals because it has so much more going on. Another example would be Rosa Bonheur's Cows. I don't know the name of the painting, but she paints these realistic paintings of the cows from the 1800s. Putting that next to The Innocent Eye Test by Mark Tansey. And in that one, there is a giant painting of cows, and next to some men in suits that look like they could be, like the board of directors at the museum. And it has a cow looking at the painting. And so the cow is kind of testing. They're doing a test on the cow. Is it like a good work of art? Is it realistic or whatever? So, that one has a lot more interesting stuff in it. It has sitting cows. It has cows, but there's a lot more going on. And so you're going to have a better discussion with the Innocent Eye Test over just a painting of cows. Our third C is complex. So this is where you want your artwork to spark multiple interpretations. That, the symbolism can go multiple different ways. The story can go multiple different ways. The emotions can even go multiple ways. Like, I'm thinking of Starry Night. Some people look at that and feel really happy. Some people look at that and feel sad. Some people look at that and feel anxious. The artist himself, felt a certain way because he was struggling with mental health. So, there's a lot of different types of emotion present in Starry Night. So that makes it a little bit more interesting than maybe another one of Van Gogh's paintings to discuss. I'm thinking of, there's one particular propaganda piece that we have featured on the website, and that is Don't Let the Shadow Touch Them. And it has 2 kids little kids with toys, and then there's like a shadow of a Nazi symbol over them, and like the Nazi symbol is overtaking the doll. And it's very clear what that interpretation is. You can find, it's kind of really, there's a lot of things that you can pick apart, but it has just one clear meaning. So that one is still good to discuss because it does hit the other C's, but if it had a couple different directions to go, it might be a little bit more interesting, or a little bit more better, a little bit better for your art discussion. And then your last C, and the one that we added last year, is connected. And that means that the student finds a way in to the artwork and has some sort of connection to it. So it could be an artwork from the culture of the student. It could be an artwork, maybe it is an artwork about gender issues, and that student relates to that. Maybe it is something about a particular emotion. When the pandemic hit, we had one of the paintings we put in our distance learning curriculum was Edvard Munch's Separation, because a lot of people were feeling very separated at that moment. And so that artwork, we had could easily find a personal connection to it. So you're not going to have your students personally connect to every single artwork. Chances are, over the course of a year, after all of your, if you do this every week in your classroom, which is what I did, by the end of the year, the student's going to find at least one that they personally connect to. But you want to think about ones that really do relate to your students and the things that they care about and things that they're interested in. And a lot of contemporary art will allow you to find those connections better, but something to definitely keep in mind. To help you find works of art, you can visit artclasscurator.com. There are tons of free artworks and lessons on the blog. One post in particular that has a lot of artworks mentioned is artclasscurator.com/artworks-for-kids. There's also a link to this in your Beyond the Surface email today. So on the day 4 email at the bottom, you will find a link to that blog post as well. We also have over 150 artworks in our membership, the Curated Connections Library. It has 156, I think, total artwork lessons, including your discussion questions, information about the art and information about the artist, engaging activities to go with it, all sorts of stuff in there as well. So you can get more information about that at artclasscurator.com/join. All right, we've got one more thing to talk about before I let you go, and that is your assignment for today. So your assignment for Beyond the Surface is to pick a work of art using those 4 criteria, and then go ahead and post it in our thread in the Art Class Curator Collective Facebook group. The link to that post exactly is artclasscurator.com/15. So go ahead and share your work of art and why you chose it in that thread. All right, that is it for day 4 of Beyond the Surface. If you are not yet signed up to get these emails for the course, the podcast is only one component. Head over to artclasscurator.com/surface to sign up. And then tomorrow we will be talking all about individual, unique activities to explore works of art. The title for tomorrow's lesson is Enthralling Experiences. Get students engaged and keep them engaged. So tomorrow we're going to get to some of those really fun activities that you can do with the works of art. So I look forward to seeing you there. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Art Class Curator podcast. Help more art teachers find us by reviewing the podcast and recommending it to a friend. Do you have a work of art that changed your life? If so, send me your art story. You can send it to support@artclasscurator.com or leave a voicemail to 202-996-7972. Get more inspiration for teaching art with purpose by subscribing to our newsletter, Your Weekly Art Break. Recent topics include how to support English language learners, why we should teach artworks from Black artists even if it isn't February, and how to deal with teacher burnout. subscribe at artclasscurator.com/artbreak to receive 6 free art appreciation worksheets. Today's art quote comes from Neil Gaiman, and he says, "The world always seems brighter when you've just made something that wasn't there before." Thank you so much for listening. Have a great day.